Trump exempt phones, computers, chips from new tariffs. And Yellen says treasuries show U.S. confidence loss, not dysfunction. And then when it comes down to Panama opposition party accuses U.S. of camouflage invasion. An Italian tycoon emerged as a lead investor for C.K. Hutchinson's port. It's a kind of weird thing. Those are two ports we want over here to be in the States, but we'll see what happened there. We got a couple stories I'll come to, both of you guys, with having to do with CNN and Newsmax, but we'll cover that here in a few minutes. Kristi Noem urges people to get real IDs, keep our country safe. What is this real ID? Are we going back to what we never thought we were going to get to? And we'll talk about a special moment that we had yesterday in the podcast prep meeting when Brandon's like, I would never do something like this. Rob, tell me that wasn't the best moment, right? And I'm sure he's watching this. Pennsylvania arson suspect planned to beat governor with hammer. And then Ray Dalio and Jamie Dimon both had something to say. Ray Dalio said, I'm worried about something worse than a recession. Jamie Dimon makes apocalyptic prediction. And then Hesed says, 100% not expecting U.S. recession. We'll see who's right. Fed prepares $2 trillion bailout as hedge fund trade implodes. And then crypto czar David Sachs gets into a cat fight with Larry Summers. I don't know if it's a cat fight or not. That's the word they use here, but you got to see it. It's entertaining. And then Bill Maher goes and spends time with Trump after the conversation he had with you. That was very interesting to back him. It almost flipped. You started interviewing him. And, Kid Rock himself, Dana White, Chuck LaBella was also there at the meeting. And Bill Maher came out and gave see if you can get a shorter version of it, because it's 12 minutes. Maybe get a shorter version of what it is that we can cover. And then something happened with Netanyahu pushes back on anti-Israel trends in meetings with podcasters. Something happened with Tim Pool. That there's a lot of discussion with him having a meeting that maybe wasn't disclosed. I don't know what it's all about. We'll discuss it here as well. And then we got a few other things. Trump administration freezes more than $2.2 billion after Harvard rejects its demand. And then the Frisco stabbing suspect, Carmelo Anthony, released after bond lowered to $250,000. Vinny's got some thoughts on that. And then Bannon ignites new MAGA civil war as he turns on cabinet members. Maybe Eric's got an opinion on that. Who knows? We'll see. Trump swipes at CNN's Caitlin Collins in brutal exchange, and then we got a few other things here. But let me give you guys some
one enemy remaining.
A lot of you have been asking about the cigar lounge. You want to come to it, and we've been having back to back to back. This last Friday was the biggest event we ever had at the cigar lounge, which was fantastic. However, grand opening is this Thursday night. And this is what we're doing. Thursday, we're not doing a podcast in the morning. Thursday, we're doing a live podcast at our comedy club at Cigar Lounge, $59.90 live. Tickets are being sold. It'll be myself, Vinny, Tom, and Adam. Live audience. Come on down. Bar opens at 6. If you get there at 6 p.m., you buy tickets. No matter whether you buy the regular ticket, the general, the premium, or VIP. If you get the ticket and you're there early, we're going to give private tours of the cigar lounge and bring you back in the room. And the podcast will start at 7 p.m. It's going to be it's going to be, if you've been to it before, it's a spectacle. It's incredible. The energy, the vibe, the announcements, different things that we do, and a lot of people networking together. But that's the QR code. The website, Rob, if we can give them the website so some of the folks on Spotify can go to it as well. I believe it's boardroom.
Cigarlounge.com.
Boardroomcigarlounge.com. Go a little bit lower so it gives the details. You'll get the tickets, so go lower, Rob, lower for the tickets. There's general premium VIP, 100, 250, 500. VIP, get a chance to actually go afterwards to the Cigar Lounge, and we'll be with you guys. And we're doing it Thursday instead of Friday because Friday is Good Friday. So Thursday we'll celebrate it together. Come on down, bring a friend, network, join the rest of us. We'll have a good time. If you've been to it before, typically the people that have been to it before, they know VIP sell out immediately. This year we have fewer VIPs because Platinum members get first on those seats. So if you want to have a VIP seat, hurry up and place your order, and we'll see you guys Thursday night. Okay, let's get right into it. Stories. Tariffs is the first one I want to get into. Eric, your background, for some of the audience that don't know, your background is actually finance before you got into TV. If you don't mind, for some folks that don't know, maybe take a minute or two to give a little bit about your background in finance.
Well, sure. I was a professional baseball player. I blew my rotator cuff out. Had nowhere to go, nothing to do. I ended up in New York on Wall Street and started on the New York Mercantile Exchange trading energy futures. And I spent 12 years there. I got to the boardroom. I became a board member, brought the exchange public. The first major financial, certainly exchange that went public. on my push, and I spent 15 years total on Wall Street, and I've never left it. I continue to trade oil, I trade gold, silver, agricultural commodities, but I'm an active stock trader as well. And so I'm in and out of this. And tariffs, honestly, Patrick, I just don't get it. I'm an original MAGA. I'm an OG MAGA, sorry. I know you're not going to love this, but one of the original Trump supporters, one of the original Steve Bannon supporters, because back in the day when Bannon and Andrew Breitbart were developing America First, I followed them, and they were great. And they brought President Trump to the presidency the first time. So the original MAGA supporter, I do not get this idea of applying tariffs on the whole world. We are the biggest consumer on the planet. We have a lot of ways of exerting pressure on China to lower their tariffs and others, Brazil. One of them would be use our massive oil infrastructure. I mean, Trump loves to drill oil. If we drilled a ton more oil, if we put liquefied natural gas, which we can now do to the point where we satisfy all of our domestic demand, the excess demand, we can offer to China and say, look, you want to make a deal, lower your tariffs, we will sell you LNG at market price without a tariff. You want to keep your tariffs, we'll jack it up. China needs the oil. They need that. They're desperately seeking oil. That's why they have the partnership with Russia. Point is, I've done this for a really, really long time. It's the one area I just can't get behind. Free marketeer here. And anytime government gets involved in anything in the markets, they pretty much screw it up.
Okay, so let's start off with the tariff topic. I like that. So Trump exempts phones, computers, and chips from new tariffs. Rob, if you want to pull up the clip on that. Right there. Here's President Trump talking about what they're doing with phones, computers, and chips.
When I started drinking warm water to help with my memory, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how much I'd improved, they started doing it themselves. You've probably heard that as you get older, your memory will never be the same. You'll have to get used to the constant brain fog and forgetfulness, precious memories fading and going blank halfway through conversations, and the worry of losing your independence as you slowly decline. But what if I told you that's not true at all? What if I told you that there's a simple trick you can do from home that can help improve it in weeks without brain training games or taking expensive medications? Sounds too good to be true, right? That's what I thought too until I saw my sister-in-law at a family party. She'd been struggling with these problems for years, but she suddenly seemed like a totally different person. She was sharp as a tack, telling jokes and reminiscing about all these old stories from the past that I'd completely forgotten even happened. I asked her what her secret was, and she told me about this weird memory trick that she'd seen on TV. She said it was a simple thing that she did every night on her earlobes. She said it apparently cleared some sort of toxin that had built up and was causing the forgetfulness. She said it was easy to do, and it only took 8 seconds each day. She said it started to work within days. She started thinking clearer, and had carried on improving ever since. She said apparently thousands of people were doing it and seeing the same results. I was skeptical, but I decided to give it a try. And boy, am I glad I did. I felt like I could finally think clearly for the first time in years. I couldn't believe it. I felt like a new person. I could remember every detail of my life again. I stopped having to make lists of everything. I got the all clear to come off my meds, and I'm saving a fortune. And the best part is, I could hold a conversation again without losing my train of thought.
One enemy
And get
remaining.
this. Even my own doctor started doing this himself after seeing how fast I'd improved. If you'd like to see this memory trick for yourself, just tap the link below and see this short free video that shows you everything you need to know. Trust me, you won't regret it. I hadn't even realized at the time how much it had been affecting me, like forgetting people's birthdays or important appointments, or losing my keys and not remembering passwords, or not even knowing what meals I'd eaten the day before. And hey, just to see the look on my daughter's faces when they see they've got their dad back is worth it alone. Finding this is the best thing that ever happened to me, so I take every chance I get to share it with others who might be struggling like I was. So tap the button below to go watch it now and see exactly how you can start using this method at home tonight.
Vámonos, run it back. Le doy mucho, le doy mucho.
À la tête de votre café, vous êtes le créateur de moments de partage. Préparer, servir, organiser, votre savoir-faire s'exprime dans chaque tasse et chaque croissant que vous servez. Un seul geste vous sépare du fruit de votre travail. Si seulement la batterie de votre terminal durait aussi longtemps que l'effet du café, avec MyBoss, traitez jusqu'à 1000 transactions sans interruption. En alliant performance et fiabilité au service de votre café. MyBoss, votre argent en un instant.
Spike down A.
Which specific products are you considering, and how long is short-lived? Weeks, months?
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies with it. They're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
Spike down A.
Cell phones.
Look, I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind.
One enemy remaining.
And you have to be. You just can't have a wall and you'll only go. Sometimes you have to go around it, under it, or above it. There'll be maybe things coming up. I speak to Tim Cook. I helped Tim Cook recently in that whole business. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country. We're the greatest economic power in the world if we're smart. If we're not smart, we're going to hurt our country very badly.
So the latest number, Rob, if you can verify this, I think it's U.S. 145% tariff on China. China's 125% tariff on U.S. Okay, it doesn't look like it's slowing down. Xi just went to Vietnam. Vietnam was the first person that we said we're going to lift the tariff. So he's going to his neighbors to say, hey, don't forget we have a great relationship together. The whole concept of we'll build this stuff here, we'll say made in China, but we'll put made in Vietnam. We're still going to keep that agreement. Let's not forget the stuff that we have going on here. But you're not liking the position they're taking with this. Why is that?
Because again, government getting involved in anything, they screw everything up. Price controls screw up supply demand. You just let supply and demand find the right one. Originally, they launched it as we're going to put an equivocal tariff on any certain country, China, Brazil, Germany, whatever you're charging us.
I've got your trail.
Yeah. The problem is they didn't do that, Patrick. What they did was they took the trade imbalance with the country. For example, China, $130 billion trade imbalance. That's what they sell us more than we sell them. And they divided that number by the total export China into America, which is fine, but it's an equation. It has nothing to do with their tariff structure at all. It's a trade imbalance number. And they came up like, I think, 64%, and they said, we're going to do 32. They did that with every single country in the world. Nothing to do with the actual tariffs. So they sold it as, we're going to raise our tariffs reciprocally, and when you lower country A, B, or C, we will lower with you, which is great. That's fine. You want to play that game? Wonderful. Then it became something different. Then it became, we're doing this to everyone, and now we have 15 countries who want to negotiate. Now we have 150 countries that want to negotiate. And it became more about the world leaders coming to the Trump administration and begging for some relief, which isn't the real nature of it. You want to play the tariff game, play it where the purpose is to lower tariffs completely, both directions. And I think they lost that script for a while. They're trying to get it back now. And then this whole idea of choosing certain industries to exempt from tariffs, not necessarily countries, but industries, chips, cell phones, computers. I just don't like, I'm a free market person, Patrick. The free market is what made this country number one, the greatest country on the planet, bar none, because we have the most free business environment markets, and the tariff disrupts that whole element.
Tom, your thoughts on this?
Well, Trump said, I want to leverage things to get the world to come to the table. And so, okay, we're using tariffs, and I'm on board with that. But then the calculation of how you get them to the world, I thought that they kind of lost the headline there, because it's like, wait a minute, how are, to your point, how are you calculating to get them to the table? You want to get them to the table and say, hey, look, you got two things here. One of them is tariffs, and you're not really bad on tariffs, Eric, but you know what? I know you're cheating, and I know you got intellectual property things going on, and I know you've got some relabeling of the country of origin, and that's annoying. So let's fix that. So maybe the tariff gets them to the table, maybe leverage gets them to the table, so you can talk about all these other things. The biggest one to deal with is China. The biggest one to deal with.
But Tom, I don't mean to interrupt, but They didn't use a tariff and add on difficulty getting into your market or back and forth. They didn't use that. They literally took the trade imbalance of country A, B, or C, and they divided it by the exports.
I agree. That's why
it's like
I was confused by the calculation, but I
which is a
understand the purpose.
non-formula. It is a formula that does not exist.
It's a formula, but they didn't. It's not what they sold us.
Right.
It's not what they said it was. It's going to be a tariff. We'll raise to you. And they said we're going to be lenient and only do half.
Right.
But the number they are using is the tariff that we're being charged had nothing to do with the tariff. And again, I'm putting this on Howard Lutnick because this is Howard Lutnick's baby here, and I've known that guy for 30 years. I wouldn't trust him to park my car over there. Lutnick's a problem.
Only the best.
Tell me why.
Only the best.
You want me to tell you why?
Yeah. Trump brings in only the best. Only the best.
Again, so I was on with O'Reilly, and he said, "Yo, Bowling, you're a MAGA sycophant. He can do no wrong." Is there anyone in this administration he made a mistake with Lutnick? I believe he did. Chris, you and I were in New York when the World Trade Center came down.
Oh boy.
Howard Lutnick was CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Howard wasn't at the World Trade Center when it came down because he was taking his kid to school. His brother dies. 115 of his employees died. The families of his employees didn't have money. They didn't have health care. They had to sue Howard Lutnick to get health care. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is out there.
It's a bad history.
But it's 25 years ago, and people are like, "Oh, Howard Lutnick." They don't remember. Since then, my first experience with Howard Lutnick was I was trading oil on the New York Mercantile Exchange. I was on the board. We were huge. We were growing. We were the premier oil trading platform in the world. For every single barrel of oil, price was discovered on the New York Merc, and it still is. I was a board member there. Howard calls from Cantor before the World Trade Center comes down. He says, "I'm going to put you guys out of business. I'm developing an oil contract that is going to bury the New York Mercantile Exchange." So I went over there with a couple of other board members to have a nice conversation with him to see if there's a way we could all work together to discover prices for oil. The more price discovery, the more people involved, the better. He just literally looked at us and I'm developing a contract putting you guys out of business. Make a long story short, the exchange is still here. It's a $150 billion entity, and Howard's making tariffs.
Tu vois bien ça, monsieur?
Rompelo.
Je viens de gagner un voyage au Japon. Ah bon? On va voir les cerisiers en fleurs. Oh là là.
Et vous, comment réagiriez-vous? Gagnez des vols gratuits avec Kayak. Participez. Rendez-vous sur Kayak.
Why do you think he is, though? Why do you think he is? So if for everybody they have a sword to die on, right? If we're talking about specific to tariffs, why do you think that's Lutnick's sword to die on?
Well, I think he sold it as his expertise. I mean, he came in as the commerce secretary and he had an idea. And Trump liked the idea. But the problem is that the idea of raising your own tariffs to reduce global tariffs on incoming imports, their exports, our imports, is a nice idea. It's maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it throws the world into a global recession. I'm not sure. But he sold it, and Trump kind of liked the idea, and then he got away. It became something different. I think it'll get back to what.
So by the way, I want to make sure we're fair here. Rob, can you pull up what happened with Lutnick? Because I don't know the whole story.
They got a chunk of money as a settlement, right? As a lot of the people who were affected did. The initial criticism was that Lutnick had taken a lot of the money and it looked like it was going to go his way, not the family's way. Over time, he did more and more for the families. They got insurance, they got settlements.
Correct.
But it was a bad look early on. Is this about him committing a crime? No. Is it about him screwing them?
I'm not
period?
suggesting.
No.
I want to make sure. So because
there was bad blood early on.
He promised to give 25% of Cantor's future profits to the families, the 650 employees who died. And over the years, he gave more than $180 million distributed to those families. He's also created a relief fund offering health care and financial support to those left behind. And Fitzgerald was one of the few companies who stayed in business after losing 2/3 of the staff. So he ended up making it right afterwards with some of the stuff. So I want to make sure we put that.
Depends who you ask.
Last
but
round
I get that. It wound up better than it started, put it that way. But Eric is not wrong to say that the impression of him was very negative.
Fair enough. I wasn't there. I'm not in the know of exactly what happened. If somebody is more interested in it, they can look into it and respond to it here. But let's go to tariff. So, Eric, Chris, it seems, are you guys both on the same page on the tariff position with what he's taking? Would you say you're relatively on the same page?
I'll add one piece,
please.
Okay, which is first. This is as nice an assessment as Trump is going to get of this, right? If this had been Biden who had done this, everybody's head would be on fire.
I've got your
The
trail.
ambition is a good ambition. The mistake the left is making is hating the ambition. Helping the American worker, having new economy jobs that pay more, bringing things back that we need to make here so that people can't hold us hostage, like happened in the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't have any of the PPE that we needed. I think that's all good, and I think it's wrong to criticize it just because Trump is doing it. That's why I talk about the president and the administration a lot. I try to keep Trump's name out of it so people on the left can keep their heads straight about the idea. So I respect the ambition. You know the expression we all know. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And what they're doing here is a ready, shoot, aim situation. That's why he has to keep backing off. I have a little bit of a suspicion about why he's helping Cook gave him a ton of money. Why he's helping the car companies that he is, they gave him a ton of money. I don't think he should play favorites. How he wants to do this, Eric is right.
30 seconds left.
And you're hearing it. It's not unusual criticism. But the ambition is a good one. I'm fine with what he wants to do. The question is this the way to get it done? It's very hard to find anybody who doesn't work for him who says yes.
Can we have a friendly banter here on this topic? Let's just kind of go through some of the ideas here. So what is the alternative?
Switching sides.
If they don't do it this way,
I'll do my
and
job,
we
you
just
do
sit there and you're like, look, just use the oil reserves. We have plenty of oil. We're going to be okay. Use that as the, method of getting back. And, China needs our oil, but don't take this approach. Fair. If we go with that approach, you're assuming a similar type of a leader is going to get elected after him. What if he's not? What if it's going to be a different kind of a president that takes a different approach that doesn't believe in drill, baby, drill? So, let's go with tariffs. If we keep it the way it is, from 1971, where we kind of opened it up and they started doing business, to 2001, when World Trade Organization, they joined it and they kind of started doing more business. How much has China grown compared to us? What happened to us? How many of jobs do we give away? It almost sounds like, Eric, what you're saying is similar to what Yellen is saying. Yellen said bringing manufacturing back is a tightrope. I don't understand the rationale for tariffs. You sound like Janet, if that's your position, and you can disagree with it. Rob, if you want to play this clip. This is Janet Yellen, former Treasury Secretary. Go ahead, Rob.
Perhaps it's to bring back American manufacturing, but I really think that's a pipe dream and not something that is likely to be accomplished. And we could even raise questions about whether or not in a broad-based way that's a desirable goal.
Okay, so this is traditional way of thinking establishment. Saying this is a pipe dream. What are your thoughts?
I think Janet Yellen should never been Treasury Secretary. I think she's ridiculous. She's the one who said inflation was transitory when it was clearly not transitory for the better part of 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency. It was directly tied to their policy. I just happen to also question whether or not raising tariffs will actually create American jobs, and what kind of American jobs are we going to create here if we do this? And we're going to clearly product prices are going to go up if all things stay the same, tariffs stay high with China and others. Product prices will go up globally. Hopefully there's enough demand to support the higher price. Maybe there is. I believe there's a lot of demand in the U.S. economy right now, but you have to worry about China. China right now is on that precipice of, is there enough demand to keep them paying for their growth? I'm not sure. So that's the risk. And the payoff would be, Patrick, is Tim Cook says, I'll give $500 billion. We're going to build $500 billion worth of manufacturing in America. Lutnick said, okay, we're going to have Americans screwing these little screws in iPhones. What happens? They come back, and if they do spend money to build a manufacturing plant here, which would be great, economic activity is good, they'll all be robotics. Every single iPhone will be built with robotics. The only reason why it's not happening now is because it's too expensive to build a new manufacturing plant with the robotics. But if you're going to make it expensive to import, then you'll do it here, and there won't be more Americans working in manufacturing. There'll be more manufacturing, but not more Americans manufacturing products and stuff. Everything's going robotic.
But that's going to happen no matter what.
Correct.
That's not. It's like saying, hey, when back in the days, in the 1900s, 41% of people worked in farms, and then all of a sudden a tractor and fertilizer eliminated those jobs, and they're like, what the hell do I do? And everybody was afraid. But we adjusted. We pivoted to a different place.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
The key is the adjustment. That's why Trump shouldn't liken this to the Gilded Age. Okay, I'm sure we all saw what was in the Woodward book where Gary Cohn was trying to explain to the then president in the first term, we don't want to go back to the Gilded Age. Americans don't want that kind of job. We can do better than that. And Trump, for whatever reason, was fixated on that being America's best time, which is hard to justify economically. You are right to characterize what Lutnick said the way you are, because his quote was taken out of context. He gave a nod that we're not going to be turning screws. Those will be robotic
Spike
jobs.
down B.
But why? China underwrites the cost of those factories in their country. So you say you want to start one. We come in with valuetainment. We want to do it as a consortium. China underwrites it. That's what the United States has to do. So it's not just starting with tariffs. It's not going to get you where you want to be. The ambition is fine. But what I don't like is China is outplaying us right now in this moment. They see an opportunity. We overreached. We pissed everybody off. Everybody wants to meet with China all of a sudden, which did not happen before.
Who's everybody?
Japan, South Korea, the EU.
Hit them fast,
they're
hit them
taking
hard.
meetings. Vietnam didn't just talk to Xi. They signed over a dozen new trade deals in that meeting. So China isn't reciprocal tariffing us. What are they doing? Restricting, meaning what? They're not going to punish their consumers to the extent that they have a robust base there. They're just not allowing us access to these things. They are being very savvy.
They need us, though.
They definitely need us.
They can play with Vietnam and whomever else they want to play with all they want.
But what are we, maybe net 20% of their business? 20%? We're 14% of exports, maybe 16%.
Probably higher than that number, probably higher on a profitability basis. Not only that, we don't just buy the little, the Sharpies, we buy iPhones, and expensive, so there's a lot more profit margin in the stuff we buy. They can't live without, they can't, Chris, they're on a path to not being able to actually go into more than a recession. I mean, they've grown in massive growth. Their growth is almost.
They have structural advantages.
Yeah, in labor.
People don't matter.
In labor. Yeah.
Politicians don't matter.
Labor costs.
The currency doesn't matter. You know, they have control over everything.
Let me ask you a question, though. Okay, everything you're saying there, this is kind of how I process it. The problem with the U.S. politics, here's a problem that I see, is the leverage he has is what? When is his next election?
She never.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So the problem we have with America is what? When is our next election?
Really, like in 16 months.
Yeah, midterms.
Yeah,
okay, so what happens if there's a bloodbath and then, hey, look what's going on? So then they got to pivot and, oh my God. So the challenge I have is the following. If we don't do something now, and the next president doesn't, and the next everybody keeps, what's the word?
Kicking the can down the road.
Hey, you know, let's just get. And then eventually, all of a sudden, you're going to wake up one day and they're going to be like, hey, guess what? Now we have you. So because we don't want to deal with a little bit of pain today,
how do they have?
No.
How do they have? The betrayal is that because we have such a massive trade imbalance, we're at some sort of.
Pull up numbers, Rob.
They're there.
Pull up numbers. Pull up numbers.
$1 trillion trade.
Tariffs aren't the reason for the imbalance.
Pull up the numbers. Where did China rank in GDP in 1971? Go in 1971. Where was China? Okay. So where do they have us? China was ranked what? China's a global rank number 8. We give us 2 points in 1970, suggesting a similar in 1971. Okay. Then go to where they were in 2001, pre-WTO. Okay. And WTO, they were ranked what?
Third. They jumped up.
Okay, go to 2000 instead of 2001. Go to 2000. 2000, they're still third? Sixth. So they go from 6th. So, boom. Top 10, Sixth, WTO. Third, where are they today? Go to where they are today. Second, okay, so what are the projection of where they're going to be by 2030, 2035, 2040? So we're supposed to sit here and just kind of cave and say a new regime's in town?
It's not about the what, it's about the how. The argument you're having is about, it's not that we got to do something about China, we have to figure out how to protect ourselves and advance ourselves. I think people can get on the same page with that, or they should. It's the how. The trade deficit is not because of tariffs. In fact, when they got into the WTO, what did they have to do to get into it? Lower their tariffs. So as the trade deficit was growing, they were actually lowering tariffs. So the point is, and what pisses off people like Eric, who understand tariffs, is it's not the right mechanism.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that, Chris. Let me put it to you how I look at it. So you said the way they could get in WTO was what? To lower their tariffs.
They lowered their tariffs when they got in.
So let me ask you a question.
And for years after that.
So let me ask you a question. How much has China shown a track record of following rules and guidelines and things that ask and agreements
to do? They cheat. They steal our stuff. They may be helping right now in the Ukraine war by giving Russia manpower.
So let me get this straight. They have a track record of agreeing on certain terms and not following through on the terms. And you want us to take the negotiation seriously and try to play nice with these guys? It's not like you're dealing with somebody. When you deal with somebody, you do business. You have a phone call. You guys been in the entertainment business for a while. You know who to call. That whatever they say, it's going to get done. And I guarantee you, both of you guys have a name that no matter what they say, you better verify it 17 times because you know nothing that person ever said was real.
I just don't know that tariffs is the right punch to throw to knock them out.
What's the alternative, though? What's the alternative?
That's the discussion to have.
So I can give you an alternative.
Let's hear it.
Open up our markets. Trump loves to drill for oil. If we became a global major exporter of oil, I mean,
that's a term, though. You have it's only a period.
So China goes to number one, Patrick. Let's say they take over the United States in 2, 3, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Do it by per capita now. They have 5 times our population.
But they also don't care about how
But they went from a third world country to a developed
They're not wired
nation.
like you. They're not wired like that.
My point is, we get hung up. Are we first or second? Are we the biggest military or the second biggest military? My point is, we're the most powerful country. It doesn't matter if China has a bigger GDP than the United States. We'll still be a heck of a lot more powerful than they will. They would love to have what we have.
Based on what, though?
Here we go. We have a consumer that is the strongest consumer on the planet. Our economy is the strongest.
And let me ask you a question.
Per capita GDP.
If this continues, who's a slave to who?
They can't. We can never be a slave to them. We buy their shit. We sell them stuff. We pay them. They can't
what
stop.
Happened?
And they have a lot of our debt. If they put us into a depression and we default on the trillions of dollars of our debt that they hold, they don't want to do that either.
Yeah, but okay? So here's
spike planted.
The more I'm listening to what we're saying, the more I'm processing it as let's find a way to make it good now.
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of like...
Although I don't believe anybody is going to run away from something that's working. The Democrats criticized Trump's tariffs on China in the first term. Biden left them in. People don't run away from something.
No, what I'm saying to you is if we have a chance to have this tough conversation now, I have a feeling if we don't do it now, this may be the last chance ever to have it. And why? Let me explain why. Here's what I mean by why. When's the last time we had a guy like Trump as a president?
Never.
4 years ago.
But exactly, meaning himself. That's what he's saying. So when's the last? Was Reagan like a Trump?
No.
Was Reagan more willing? If you read the Jim Baker book, and you read about Reagan was actually willing to compromise, right?
Yes.
So Reagan had a different approach that he would still work with the establishment a little bit and kind of, be able to make that stuff work. To me, if there is a wild card in this equation of a guy that can, I was talking to a couple NBA guys the other day with Scottie Pippen, and we're talking about a guy named Zion Williamson, okay, who's
fat is what Zion is.
Exactly. But you know what I said? I said, let me ask you a question. Earlier when I asked him about the whole challenge with Miami, he says, everybody leaves Miami. Why is that? He says, because of Pat Riley. Really, why? Because Pat is known for that. He has a reputation. He drives people too hard. I said, great. 30 minutes later, I say, let me ask you a question. Zion Williamson, if there's a coach or somebody in the NBA that could change it, who would it be? He said, Pat Riley. I said, wait a minute, you can't say this.
One enemy remaining.
He says, I can. I said, what are you doing here? But the point is what? It takes an effing Pat Riley to change certain things. And I think the chances of getting another Trump in 4-8, 12-6, I don't know if we're going to see
but I don't know that you need it. There's a plus minus on how he is. Aggression is good. Trump is aggressive. He is assertive. He sees everything as a nail and he's a hammer. Okay. But it's still about how good the strategy is and what the mechanism is for change.
Too early to tell.
Our biggest advantage over China is our alliances. Okay? And that's why people were worried about the soft power. That's why people were worried about how you talk to your allies. When you see the EU saying we're going to take, not just Spain, right? We're going to take meetings with China, that's a middle finger to us. And the reason they're giving a middle finger to us because they want to give it to Trump because of how he talks about them. Now you can say, yeah, but he's strong. You need your friends to beat China, not just because of the number of human beings, but because of the concentration. That's the criticism, is the way you're going about this is not going to get it done. But what you want to get done is the right thing to go after.
Flash out!
Tom, do you have final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know about the point on the EU. I mean, the EU paraded Ursula von der Leyen, who's president of the EU Commission.
Last player standing.
Right? And they paraded her out for the last week. And she said, well, the EU likes a good deal, would like a good deal. Number one. Number two, she was saying things about, hey, we want to come negotiate this. We believe more in moderation. Because they sent her out with the moderation message so that they can take these populist messages, except Italy, forward to their media about, oh, you know, we're not going to be bullied by Trump, we're not going to be like this, everything. Meanwhile, they're coming out being very open about it. Meanwhile,
being open about what? I don't understand your point.
No, she's talking about, we want to come negotiate this, and this.
Right.
Right? And so they send out Ursula von der Leyen to make those statements. Meanwhile, you know, Macron says, oh, I don't know about this. This guy is such a bully. You see the difference?
Yeah, but I'm saying,
so
they say they're going to meet with China. They shouldn't be saying that. They are our friend, not China's friend.
Well,
and what's happening right now is a realignment because people are pissed at Trump. And that's not necessarily good.
Look deeper into it, right? Huge. Auto industry is big in Europe. Okay?
Yes.
So what's happening with, why is Renault Nissan like going to EU Commission saying we need to investigate what's going on in Hungary with BYD? They're building a factory there. They're going to ship the cars over here. They're subsidizing it, and they're going to screw all of us on the equivalent of, you know, cost dumping because they're going to subsidize the whole thing. And so I don't see a lot of love there for all of what's going on in the auto industry in Europe. And that's what one of the things that Ursula von der Leyen was talking about. And I'm no fan of her. But my point was sitting there watching her versus watching prime ministers and things and presidents and saying, you know, as much as they're pissed at Trump, they're scared to death of what China is doing. And so they're not running with open arms. I was on record at the beginning, Chris. I said, look, these tariffs are going to be tactics, not tactics. And I said that many, many times, and people clicked on it and said, I think you're crazy. I don't think I'm crazy. I think that's what's happening now. But if you look at the tariff like a medication, you're saying that's the wrong medication to be giving the patient. Okay, you can certainly say that. But you got to do it. You still have to cure the patient now. And I believe these are tactics, not taxes. Do I think that the calculation was like a wrong way to do it and opened your flank up to all kinds of criticism? Yes. But is it still the right thing to do to kind of, you know, hey, this is Holy Week, to flip over the tables and say we're going to change this? Yes.
Maybe.
I think it's too early. Like you said, but by the way, guys, this isn't my wheelhouse. Just as an average American looking out, I think it's way too early. China, I don't care. Listen, we're at war with China. We're not shooting guns. We're not dropping bombs. We're 100% at war with them. And by the way, they've gotten away for the past 4 years of what? Flying spy balloons for what? Nobody gave a damn. They bought land by all of our military bases. Malmstrom Air Force Base, Newman. Nobody's saying anything. You need something drastic. I think it's a little bit early. Let him cook. Let him do his thing. And then at what point, here's my question. At what point do we go, okay, did it work? And we have to shift gears. What? At what point? Because we're saying 2 years.
I think it's 2 years. I think and by the way, if some people are saying summer, if the market is choppy, this is not going to be pretty.
Right.
Some are saying midterms. midterms, if it goes like this, I know it's too late.
You'll get wiped out.
Wiped out. So it could be summer is the latest. Summer, but again, this is the part about how things work in negotiation. If you read Trump's book of Art of the Deal, the amount of times he was willing to go past the level of pain that the average negotiator couldn't handle, that's a skill set. I don't know if he's going to practice that here. In that sense, the pain is you. Him, Trump, because it's your deal. But in this sense, the pain is who? The people. So I don't know how he's going to manage that pain, because maybe he can handle pain for himself and his employees, but maybe the pain when he sees around his people, what they're going to be saying, maybe it's going to be different.
I don't think anyone saw a $10 trillion meltdown in the equity markets. Right. I mean, the day before they announced, we knew the announcement was coming on April 2nd. We knew it was coming. April 1st, the market was up, flat top a little bit. A 10 trillion, 1,600 on a Friday, 2,600 on the Monday, 1,500 the next day, up at that. When that happened, Trump's smart. He said, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the right. We thought it sounded great, and I agree with you that it should have been, let's use this to lower all tariffs, but they didn't realize how much the market anticipated the downdraft.
But why do your guys feel that way in the markets? Okay, like I've done a really weird thing on my show since this happened.
Because
I have pros on the show.
A global recession.
Yeah,
that's why.
So guys who are like you guys, I'm having them come on my show now, not polished TV people to talk economics. These are guys, they're real institutional traders, they're real economics working as analysts for big places. And they're saying, look, they needed to message this first. You had to tell us what your plan was, why you were doing it this way, and you had to hold to it, because we're afraid with Trump of uncertainty, or what we call chaos in the punditry business. And they didn't do that, and I think they didn't do it because he didn't have a plan. He had what Tom is talking about, which is a basic feel and a tactic to get it in. And now let's see what happens. And the markets don't like that. And the problem is he's not she. He can't look at the people who don't like what he's doing and saying, but you're going to stay quiet because I'll kill you. Trump can't do that. No, he's got to be responsive to the criticism. And the problem is when he's responsive to the criticism, it makes it even worse, because now it's feeding the sense of uncertainty. Well, what's he going to change next? Well, which is this going to happen? Are these going to happen or not? How do I plan? Where do I put my money? That's what you're seeing happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this leads to story of Ray Dalio and Jamie Dimon. Ray Dalio says, I'm worried about something worse than a recession. Okay, Rob, if you want to play this clip, and then we'll go to Jamie right afterwards. Here's Ray Dalio.
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is two negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive.
Okay.
How that's handled.
So that's Ray Dalio. So he's saying something worse than a recession, which is what? Depression, right? Okay, so this is Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is taking a different position. He's on Fox Business. Go ahead.
Question for you: after all of these incredible years of success and leadership in this great nation and the world, what tips do you want to give the younger generation who is coming up and watching you and wanting to learn how you achieved all of this? Give us some advice.
So work hard, learn, read everybody. Don't get into the echo system of Democrats, Republicans.
He gets to the recession clip in
in this clip, but it's
Okay.
very brief.
Okay, go ahead.
Conservative, progressive, read everybody. Learn. Get to know, learn from everybody else. I learned a tremendous amount from talking to other people, not just from sitting by myself. So educate yourself.
When is he gonna
learn
get
how
to
to take care of yourself.
Come
if
on,
you don't
Jay.
take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your friends, your family, you're not going to have a great life. And enjoy it. Enjoy it every step of the way. And so have a little heart and humanity. Treat people properly. I grew up, with the way you
gotta
treat
get
people,
into
you
the
treat
recession.
everyone fair and honest and forthright, whether it's the cab driver or
This guy
waiter
bothers me, buddy.
or CEO. And so
He does. It's just there's something about this guy that feels like he's always trying to say the right thing at the right time, and always trying to seem like he's on the right side of whatever it is. And I feel like, I covered the 2008 TARP and TALF stuff for ABC, okay? And I had worked in mezzanine finance before I got into this, and they didn't have a business correspondent at the time. And that
I'll
guy
teach him to respect their
was
elders.
always saying what he needed to say for himself in that moment. But he always wanted to make it like he was there for the little guy and for the people. And I think he's full of shit, that guy. There's something about him that really, I don't trust that he's coming from a good place, this guy, when he says things. Not that he's not smart, not that he doesn't get it. He's too convenient with what he says. It makes me think that he's not anchored by anything.
I actually think he's brilliant. I think he's the smartest man on Wall Street. But I also think he hedges everything with we're headed to a recession. He's been saying we're headed to a recession for the past 20 years.
Yeah, and he's going to be right at some point.
Yeah. Right, but as the market goes up and JP Morgan stock goes up and Jamie Dimon was smarter and smarter, if it does turn negative, it's like you call it a recession. But he is very, very smart.
But even this, bringing our trading partners closer as we build our military. Just checking boxes. Yes, of course you want your trading partners close. Churchill had a great reminder for FDR during World War II when FDR was vacillating. The only thing worse than fighting against your friends is fighting without them. That's what we're risking right now, is going alone. And when we're, as a coalition, with all these other countries, we're much more formidable, even if we are very strong in our own right. And I don't like two things that are coming our way right now. One, turns out we have to spend a lot more money on military to compete with China. No thanks. We did that with the Cold War. It doesn't work. We don't need to do that. And the other thing we're going to hear is, you're right about all these concerns about the domestic market. We need those tax cuts right now. I don't want to see another tax cut for me. That's not going to help the same people who are going to get hit by these tariffs if they're in place. And I feel like both of them are coming.
See, now I would say we would agree a lot on tariffs and we would disagree on tax. That would be the one way to energize the U.S. economy, is allowing us to keep more of our money. It's always been a great driver of spending and saving. I think making them permanent.
Yeah, but just target it right. Target it right. You called it a middle-class tax cut, and they didn't get the money.
I don't think there's a bad target to reduce a tax, whether it's corporate tax or individual personal income tax, lower level, high level, middle class. Lower taxes create economic activity.
That's fine as long as you cut the spending. Not like you did it last time, Eric. The way you did it last time was screwed up. And they just kept saying they paid for themselves. And the only way you can get to that, as you know, is if you include the pandemic money. And you want to cut taxes, fine. Cut spending. Cut spending and go to the DOD and cut spending. We do not need to build up to compete with China. They're not our problem that way. It's not like we're going to get a land war in Asia. It's not the Princess Bride.
You can become fully, listen, oil is the lifeblood of the global economy.
One enemy remaining.
Whoever has it does the best.
Drill. Knock yourself out.
Drill. Lower taxes, and you don't have to worry about paying more in your tariffs when you send stuff to China than they send it this way. The best year of my life is the year I pay the most freaking taxes, okay? Because I made a lot of money.
Right.
And my point is, if we are so strong, so powerful, our economy's pumping at $30-40 trillion a year GDP, okay, so China's doing 42. We have a fifth of their population. It's all good. It's not bad. Lower our taxes, lower our fuel prices, and we will compete on a global stage.
Now, but we're missing a piece. We're missing the most important piece. One of the things I love about Pat and what he's doing here is the culture that's an extension of family, okay? You go see Pat with his kids. You know, one, he's present, right? And his wife, obviously. They take education very seriously. Those kids have to nail it. They have to be STEM sensitive. Yeah, you got to be able to kick the ball and be a good team player. That's what China did. China invested. They are 5-1 STEM graduates over us, okay? Per capita, 5-1. We're leaving that piece out, okay? You want those jobs, who's going to do those jobs?
It's you and me.
We're not STEM activated here in our education.
See, Trump's trying to fix that.
Well,
Get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah, how does that
help?
help?
The unions, and all of a sudden, things get better.
I think
again.
How do you know that's what's going to make it better?
Well, that's the theory. I mean, the theory is free them up, just like the free market, free up education, allow parents to take the money that the public school system is wasting on students, failing, let them choose where the best schools are.
I think you have to do what we don't want to do, which is what other countries do, which is you have to pick winners and losers. You have to test kids at different points as they're coming up and figure out who has the aptitude, and then put them on different courses like you see in other places. And you pay for their education. If you're that smart, Vinny, you're that good, I'll pay for your education. And you're going to give it back to me with what you do. We'll figure it out. We are not doing that in this country right now. We are a culture of accommodation right now. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. You be you. And it's as big a part as anything we've talked about in the podcast up to this point as to what our concerns are with China.
You misgendered me. I'm not you. I'm they, them. So that's correct.
Right here.
I
thought you were macho.
You're making the case to eliminate teachers' unions, Department of Education.
No, I'm not. I think that's...
You literally just said that.
No, I didn't.
Based on meritocracy rather than a union mandate.
Collective bargaining matters. You go back to the Gilded Age and you see how workers were doing with the die rate laws and child labor. The unions have a place.
No one's dying.
The president says that's what we should go back to.
No, it's a new golden era. It's not the Gilded.
The golden era was after World War II. The Gilded Age, which is fake gold, right? That's the one that he points to. Look, collective bargaining to me, I think, is a virtue. If you go too far, do you have to regulate it the right way? Of course. But what I'm saying is, I don't care about what the mechanism is. I'm talking about the goal. You don't have enough smart people with the right kinds of educations in this country. That's all I'm saying. You don't even have enough trade workers in this country.
We agree.
And we need
how
to
do you
foster
get there is where we disagree.
100%. I don't necessarily disagree. I'm open to it. I think the best idea should win. I don't know what they are. I ask questions for a reason. You know what I mean?
Chances of recession.
A recession by definition is 2 quarters.
30 seconds left.
I'm only at like 10-20%. But you have to remember what a recession is. A recession is the consumer spending, it drops. GDP drops 2 quarters because people aren't spending. Why are they spending? Because their sentiment went down. Why is their sentiment down? Because everybody's telling them it's bad. Why is everybody telling them it's bad? Because they don't give enough time for these tactics to come to fruition to get to the other side of where we're going to do. A recession doesn't mean that the auto industry has been nuked. It just means that all the spending was down for 2 quarters. Now, I think there's a 20% chance that could happen. That's what I think. But I'll tell you, I'm with Eric on the tax thing. Right now, we're about to cross, if we haven't crossed already, 1.3 trillion on consumer credit card debt. Records are being set that the consumer shouldn't be setting. You know what I'm talking about. And we have the cumulative effect of inflation. So a tax cut on those people helps moderate that. And I think that helps them. And I also agree with drill, baby, drill, because I would go after Anwar, and I would pump the hell out of Anwar, and I would be selling it to people that own our T-bills, and I'd be taking down our long-term debt. And guess what happens? You do that. Now you go watch what happens. But right now, I think there's a 20% chance of a recession by definition, not by the redefinition they did under Biden, where they ignored the fact and worked around the fact.
Well, they took out food and energy.
Yeah,
because it conveniently ruled it out.
And spiking.
Yeah, that's exactly. Without my wife and I, the average age, we have a very young, healthy household.
Sneaky. Next story. El Salvador Robin. Pull up the clip of El Salvador Kelly visiting the White House and saying he will not return a man the U.S. mistakenly deported. This is from the Voice of Corporate.
Lundi, rien. Mardi, mercredi, jeudi, toujours rien. Tiens, Saint-Antonin. Une composition unique en minéraux et du magnésium naturel pour un confort quotidien. Saint-Antonin, c'est étonnant comme ça libère.
Le jeu Polo Sun 4 sort mercredi prochain. Avec l'app eBay, vendre vos objets n'a jamais été aussi facile.
Can President Bukele weigh in on this?
Do you plan to return him?
Well, I guess 30 seconds left.
Bush
was
suggesting
that
I smuggle
Stupid question.
to the United States.
Run and low.
How can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States?
Stupid question.
I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is how can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States. You can release him inside El Salvador. Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? That's not going to happen. Well, they'd love to have a criminal, there's a fascination. They would love it.
Yeah. Listen though, they gave the president that stick. That's a stupid gotcha question that the media's got to get out of the habit of asking, doubts. Which is just trying to expose
What's the right
some kind of conflict. So look,
the right question as well.
This is a much simpler situation than the one we were just talking about. Okay. Now, I don't know why he calls the guy a terrorist. That's not what this is about with this guy. Okay.
Well, Trump labeled anybody that's from a gang that's a terrorist. Well, technically, if you think about it, technically they are. They cause terror. They kill. They sell drugs. They freaking kill women, children, everything. They're technically.
I'm not here to defend gangbangers. Okay. I'm with you. That's an easy argument to win.
All right.
What I'm saying is, technically, that's not what a terrorist is under our law. You know that. They got to be doing what they're doing to advance a political agenda. That's why people always get frustrated when we wait when a Muslim extremist does something violent here. But that's not my point. The point is this. This is simple, okay? It wasn't a mistake, all right? They didn't care about the hearing that he had coming up with his asylum claim. When this guy has his asylum claim, he is not going to get asylum. He has no legitimate basis for it. Well, I'm afraid they're going to kill me there. No. It has got to be a specific and articulated threat to you. He should be brought back, give him the hearing so you can prove that you respect due process, and he'll go right back. That's the end of this story. This is a what I call a non-traversy to go after Trump, and he handed them the stick. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to get him. They're going to bring him back. Don't ask El Salvador president. It's embarrassing for us. He's got nothing to do with it.
But apparently, this guy that like CNN, not CNN, majority mainstream media. So this guy, the government has found out that this guy has not only connections, he's probably in MS-13, and none of us know. But you know what they labeled him? A hardworking father departed in a family torn apart.
Maryland man, they call him.
Maryland man,
Exactly. Born and raised in El Salvador and a MS-13 gang member. Maryland man.
And listen, he goes in, I don't know if we're going to show up, he goes in on Caitlin Collins and CNN, which I normally would be like, you know what, kind of, take it easy. But enough is enough. And actually, I'm happy that he's doing it. Like, we're talking about, think about this. How many thousands of people have Homeland Security, Tom Homan, Christine gotten the hell out of our country? I haven't heard of one illegal raping or murdering an American. Okay, since Trump has been in. It's shocking. All right, it's amazing. So there's one guy that everybody's up in arms with, and they're making him seem just like when Trump in the first administration killed Soleimani, you know what they called him in the media? He was a freedom fighter, and they killed him. It's absolute horseshit, and CNN should be embarrassed. How many more BS stories are we gonna have to hear? They're worried about one guy, one freaking guy who was in a gang. And then Miller over here even explains, the guy went to court twice. They said he had a deportation order. That means you don't belong in here. Okay, and it's embarrassing, bro. In front of the freaking president who's saying, you want us to ship back a guy that's probably killed and murdered? Hell no, it's embarrassing.
Rob, what clip do you have?
So I have two of the clips that Vinny had mentioned where Trump calls out Caitlin Collins, if you'd like that. Then I also have Bukele offers the U.S. help to detain criminals. Another clip of Bukele praising Trump for the border crisis and asks him why the media won't report on it. And then finally, Stephen Miller debunking the narrative that the Maryland man should not have been deported to El Salvador.
Why don't you start off with the Caitlin Collins?
Cool.
Questions, please.
President Trump.
No, let's not start with CNN. It's just so
Mr. President.
wrong.
So that's the first one.
I love that.
Here's the second one. He goes back and does this again.
Let's reset.
You said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, Isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You know, you have no credibility. Please go ahead.
Like, can you blame this guy? Like, could we just really fast? And I'm sorry to take more time. Can we just he's fed up. How much more crap, especially from CNN? How many more mistakes? How many more lies? I had to make a list, Pat. Russia collusion. Okay, this is all CNN. Nick Sandman case, lies. Jussie Smollett, hoax, lies. Hunter Biden laptop, COVID lab theory. Joe Rogan on horse dewormer. Trump's fine people lying. January 6th, Kyle Rittenhouse, they lied. Hands up, don't shoot, they lied. The crying border kids photo, lie. The horse whipping at the border, lie. The most peaceful riots, lie. Fake COVID hospitalization, overload stories. You guys remember that? Brian Stelter's disinformation segments. How much more? Are they never going to shift gears? Like, are they never going to stop? I get reporting. Hold people's foot to the fire. You are literally in the White House talking about one freaking guy who is an MS-13. Pat, we lived in Cali for how long? To get into MS-13, is it just you sign up and you join in? How evil do you have to be in this freaking gang?
Yeah, they have a form.
Yeah, exactly. It just boggles my mind that you're in the White House. The guy from El Salvador who had the most dangerous country, now he has the most safest. And that's what she's worried about? This one freaking guy? Eric, it drives me bananas.
You are 100% on it, which blows me away that she actually even asked that question, Chris. I mean, CNN management must have been like,
doesn't blow me away. She's a double agent because they love her in Trump land. They love her. She's got friends in that administration. She gets access. She gets information.
Into that. She does. CNN right into an ambush. I mean, they got smoked. CNN got smoked because he points out all the things that CNN lied about and gave Trump the platform to say, look at these assholes. We're deporting people who rape our women, kill our children, or vice versa. Exchange, and CNN, you want them back.
That exchange makes Caitlin Collins more popular with the media. Because she's the new Jim Acosta.
At CNN? Yeah. I got to think they're going
to be saying,
what the hell did you do that? Ask him a tough question you can't answer, not something he's going to absolutely lambast CNN and you.
But Jim Acosta, dude, if you think about it, the fake news was birthed by Jim Acosta, who's not even there anymore.
I have a theory on that.
Yeah.
Trump first term didn't have the mandate and the swell and the support he has right now. He's got the American people behind him. He's got people like me, at least, on MAGA. But the first time, they were skeptical. They called him he was delusional, he's racist, he's this. Now he's got the American people. First time, he gave Acosta a platform to raise his Q score.
One enemy remaining.
He's leg sweeping these people. I believe Caitlin Collins is probably on her last leg because of that. The 3 or 4 things she's done recently, but certainly, if I'm CNN management, I go.
Last round in the half.
She just walked us
look,
into
you can look at the ratings and you'll make your decision. That's what management does. But I'm telling you, within the media culture, going at Trump gets you dap.
Need a drop. I'm out. Thanks. No. I'm out of here.
Ale musimy po prostu szybko od nich ratować, nie możemy stać tak w miejscu. Mają heja. Na pewno heja. On jest heaven, Chodźmy midem.
It's you and me.
Go.
Healing, reloading. One enemy remaining. Reloading.
I know exactly where.
Can't use this yet.
Hero Wars. Play him next step for free now.
Już Nie zdąży.
And it's going to help. Going at him wisely, smartly. They alley-ooped. I'll give you the other side of it, okay? And then feel however you want to feel.
How's that for a
He
plan?
did say, "I respect court orders." Don't say that. I respect judges. Okay, 9-0. You got to bring the guy back and have that hearing. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. He put himself in the position to do that. Okay. It's 9-0. You got to bring him back and give him the hearing. That's due process. They're the two most important words in the law. Do it, and then you have high ground. So she's not wrong to say, you said you were going to do that. It's 9-0. It's your court, and you're not doing it. That's not unfair.
That's not what she said, though, Chris.
That's not unfair.
You asked the question that way. Patrick, you asked Chris, what's the right question? Frame it that way, and then all of a sudden, you and CNN look smart. Look, holding truth to power.
Fair. You want to be just fair.
She says, "Are you going to bring back the Maryland man?" And she teed him up to.
Look, that's a bullshit way to ask it. And the media, especially in these settings, as we both know, that's a gotcha setting. Nobody's having a real conversation in one of these press scrums. And that's why Trump thrives in them, because he's a one-liner.
The only one who's done worse in the Oval Office in the last 90, 80 days, or whatever it's been, is Zelensky.
You did good.
Caitlin Collins is number 2 to Zelensky. Both got destroyed. Absolutely destroyed.
I think it helps her. Zelensky, that's apples to oranges. But look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Why am I not covering this in a big way on my show? Because of Vinny's point, okay? I'm not in the business of defending King, all right?
One day.
And why they do that with him, I don't know. You know what the next one's going to be? Is this Carmelo Anthony case. That is going to blow up in this country because it plays on race and perception.
Oh, yeah.
And the media is going to play it one way.
Ruin their day.
People are going to scratch their heads. I don't believe that Trump has the country with him, and I don't think this period we're in right now has helped him. But we are very volatile right now, and people get angry real easy, and they get reasonable real slow.
And you made a great point, Chris. Look at who the Democrats' heroes are right now. An MS-13 gang member, Luigi Mangione, who shot and killed a father in the middle of the street, Mahmoud Khalil, who's a Palestinian Hamas propaganda freaking guy, and then Carmelo Anthony, who stabbed Austin Metcalf, and now not only did they take the bail from $1 million to $250,000, he's home and he's chilling. And you nailed it, Chris. If that was the roles reversed, and there was a white kid stabbing a black kid at a track meet, forget it. That would have been the talk right now. There would have been riots in the streets, 1,000%. Yeah. So it's funny who they're representing.
I don't think it's a mistake by CNN. I think it's a playbook. Because when I was sitting there watching this, and I got my hackles up, and I sat back and I thought for a second, and I said, "Wait a minute, this feels like Trayvon 2.0. They're trying to get me to believe that this person is who it isn't." And they paraded out the young picture of what looked like a nice kid, and it turns out that wasn't the kid that was in front of the cop. It was the one that was tatted, in trouble with the law, and no one wanted to talk about how did that kid get from that picture of that what looked like it's just a sweet little boy up to this guy who had been through all this stuff and was a much different guy that ended up in a scuffle that got him killed. And yet they want to gaslight you and get you to believe that the guy was there. And Obama, I don't have any sons, but I have sons probably look like Trayvon. What was that, dude? What was that?
Mistake.
And I feel like, you talk about walking into a fist. He walked into a fist.
Yeah.
And so this gaslighting that's here, and I'll tell you,
I don't think
when
it's
Zaz goes to the Allen Company conference, he's going to brag about her. Oh, she goes up against it. She goes really quick.
Yeah.
You should buy CNN. And by the way, she's on a rookie contract. She's really inexpensive, and we got rid of all the other bigger contracts. Right? That's how they're going to do it. And CNN is on. Man, they have not only jumped the shark, they're for sale, and everybody knows they're for sale, which is the part that shocks me. They live in the echo chamber. They love her inside the echo chamber. Oh, you're a girl. You're a tough girl. Boy, look at you. Inside the echo chamber, they love it. But outside, you're right.
And she plays MAGA, by the way, because she used to work for the Daily
Tucker.
She used to work for Tucker. Yep. She's from Alabama. You know, and look, I worked with her. She was a good reporter. She had deep reach into Trump world. Okay, I don't know who it is or why it is, but she gets a lot of access from them and a lot of information, and that was what made her appealing. I like her. I get what she's doing there. I get what the play is. The problem is the ratings. And at the end of the day, you're only as good as your number in that business. People liked me, people didn't like me. I was number one. I was number one at CNN. Every month, I was number one. Yeah, but it's Anderson Cooper's house. True. I'm number one. Yeah, but Jake Tapper is going to be the guy who does the debates. I'm number one. You know, you are your number in that business. And if the numbers stay down, you're going to be gone. It's just how it is.
So you're saying she ain't going away anytime soon?
Well, look, based on the numbers, she'd be gone yesterday. It's all about what management
Where does she rank right now? On CNN?
I don't know, behind Anderson. And sometimes behind Jake, who's on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Look, they got to figure out their numbers there. They're not unique in that position. They definitely have problems in their primetime lineup.
I know exactly where
and
you are.
That's okay. Business, people go up and down. They got to figure it out. I think the bigger problem is
that really the amount of viewership she's getting?
Yeah.
119,000, that's it?
Yeah.
There's no way in the world
demo.
that's it.
Yeah, it's a demo.
Yeah, but that's the one that they sell. And look,
standing.
I'd love to have that number.
Yeah, that's was it 18 to 54?
25 to 54. Now they're selling more often 35 to 54 because the marketplace is being forced to accept that it's really people our age who have most of their disposable income.
4:30, they're 3:30.
I was original gangster on the 5. I was center scene on the 5 for 6 years. We were to O'Reilly. These numbers.
À la tête de votre café, vous êtes le créateur de moments de partage. Préparer, servir, organiser, votre savoir-faire s'exprime dans chaque tasse et chaque croissant que vous servez. Un seul geste vous sépare du fruit de votre travail. Si seulement la batterie de votre terminal durait aussi longtemps que l'effet de vos cafés, avec MyPOS, traitez jusqu'à 1000 transactions sans interruption, en alliant performance et fiabilité au service de votre café. MyPOS, votre argent en un instant.
It's you and me.
I can't use that.
Spike down A. One enemy remaining.
The whole cable news. These numbers are way down.
Yeah, there's stratification, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, there's still going to be a flight to value and curated audiences. My concern about the culture is we're just addicted to the division. You know, like you and I will both hear things like, oh, you seem like, you're like buddies. Like it was bad enough with Pat and his guys. Now Eric Bowling, we are a culture of division. People don't want to reward cooperation, friendship, amity, disagreement without being disagreeable. They like the sides.
Well, this is interesting. Well,
they like the sides.
Bring something up. Go ahead. I think you're clearly the best on News Nation. Clearly.
I'm the best sitting next to you right now.
News Nation is they haven't picked we're news for everyone. And
I'll get fired if I pick a side.
Right. I contend.
I will.
They'll fire. That's why News Nation can't make ground on Fox, because people want a side.
That's right.
And News Nation wants to be all the news for all the people, which is admirable. But we're in a bifurcated world right now.
Eric, where are you at? You're now where? You're with the Red Sea Ventures.
Red Sea was bought by Fox. Correct. My digital portion is with Fox now, and my cable Real America's Voice and YouTube and Rumble, we're live there as well. So I own the show, but I license it to Rav and also license it to Fox.
He's in the right place entrepreneurially. And the country, you got to bet on the country getting past the parties. That's my bet. And it's not opportunistic. I mean, this is where I am. I don't like the parties. I never have. I say the same thing on Pat's show all the time. If your name's Cuomo, I'll vote for you. If you run as a Democrat, I'll vote for you as a Democrat if you need me in the primary. But I hate the parties. They are the problem in our culture.
Can Stephen A. Smith get the support of Democrats?
Yes. I think he can.
Even with his...
Now, he won't get it if I have anything to say about it, because I care about him too much. And I don't want to see him get chewed up by that system, because they'll start coming for him. Right now, he's on the ascendant, and I think with good reason. I love Stephen A. I love what he's about.
Smart guy.
It's you and me.
But he's pick and choose the issue. He's not straight blue.
Yeah, but that's the way you got to be. That's the way we are everywhere else in our life.
I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. should be the next president. I really do. But people on my side, MAGA, don't like that because he comes from a Democrat place, and we've become so bifurcated, wider and wider apart. They don't want to just beat the other side. They want to destroy. They don't want to see it 2-1 baseball game. They want to see a 12-0 blowout no-hitter.
But I believe those are the fringes. In our everyday life, where you
That's
are,
rating, though.
where I
That's
am,
where the ratings are.
No question. No, I'm not arguing that point. You win. What I'm saying is, I'm betting on something bigger than that. That there are more independent critical thinkers than we let on. Look,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They voted for Trump.
I know what must
Some did,
be
yeah.
done.
Well, most.
Some
more,
did.
More than half.
Some did. Why? Because he's a known quantity. And what was going on with the left, mostly from a cultural perspective, because I believe they got baited into a fight that they couldn't win, was more removed from normal than Trump.
The left.
Yeah,
the left became so crazy.
Let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask both of you guys a question. So Stephen A. Smith, say he ends up running, okay? Will he have more momentum? Will he have more momentum running as a Democrat or as a Republican? Forget independent. I'm saying Democrat or Republican.
Democrat. He can't run as a Republican. MAGA's going to hold. Yeah, I mean, who's the heir to Trump? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it Don Jr.?
Now,
Trump. Or
Last player standing.
Or one of the other Trumps. Who knows? Could be Ivanka Trump for that.
Who knows? Yeah.
No idea. But the throne right now is in MAGA's hands. I'm not Republicans at all. Throw out Republicans. No one even cares about the Republican Party. It's the new conservative party. It's MAGA. It's what we are. Stephen A. Smith, great. He would be a better disruptor of the left for us than actually running on our side.
I can't be
I just think that Eric's right, but the virtue of Stephen A. Okay, and I don't mean to canonize this guy, and I'm afraid because I know what happens when somebody's getting elevated. There's now a price on you to bring you down, and I don't want to see that for him. So that's why I'm shy on this. But he is also a reminder that reasonable should be a commodity. It should be a commodity. The fact that, you got to be full on MAGA or you got to want to kill Trump. Last night I said I want the president to be successful in making the economy stronger for as many workers as possible and to set us up for a better national security perspective. And I didn't say President Trump for a reason. I wanted people to just grab the concept of the office. Nope, I got savaged. Okay. You say anything about Trump, you get savaged. That's the problem. Nobody is like that anywhere else in their life, except in our politics. And Stephen A. Smith is a reminder that you don't have to be a rabid form of one or the other. And that's why I love
I think Democrats are going to destroy him if he runs as a Democrat. I think they will destroy him. I think eventually they'll want to control what he has to say, and they'll have that meeting to say, you better do this or else we have this on you. And they won't. It's what your brother wasn't willing to do.
You can't do that with him. You know Stephen well enough.
I know. What I'm saying, do that. It's not about you can or you can't. If you can't, then you can't run. Because in Democratic Party, they believe in arranged marriage. They believe in arranged marriage. They tell you, hey, Democrats, this is your president.
They lost. They're down. They've never seen numbers like this. Their organization is screwed up. Nobody wants to give them money. So I don't know that they'll have as much control. But I will tell you this. You are right about one aspect of the dynamic. I would be very surprised if the next 1, 2, 3 Democrats that we start talking about are inside the system. On some level, they will be perceived as outsiders. Maybe they'll be an office holder, but they're not going to be seen as part of the establishment. That's not coming up. Because they're kicking my ass so much.
Attackers win.
I just wanted to walk the dog, but then I got I just gotta go to the club. I'm not gonna lie.